Welcome to everyone. In this week video you will learn how powerful and profitable are the cycles, and how to use them to trade the stock market and to increase your profits. This week video will cover the Dow Jones Industrial Average for the week of April 29, 2024. Before we start, make sure you read carefully the disclaimer. For the past few update videos, we have an uncertainty to where to place the 20-week cycle on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. For a deeper analysis, I recommend to watch my previous videos. But for now, let's start with the 40-week cycle. On my last weekly update, I mentioned the Dow Jones Industrial Average is still on his way to form his 40-week cycle peak. The confirmation of the 40-week cycle peak will come when the Dow Jones Industrial Average will cross the 20-week cycle trend line, also called VTL by Hurst. The second confirmation of the 40 weeks peak will be when the Dow Jones Industrial Average will cross below his 20-week cycle line, providing a potential downside target, certainly very close to his 40-week cycle line. And the 40-week cycle low is expected to form around end of June. On the week of April 15th, the Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed below his 20-week cycle line. This is a sign of the Dow Jones Industrial Average formed a major peak. There is a very high probability the March 28th high is the 40-week cycle peak. This peak formed on the right part of the cycle. Hurst called it the right time translation. To know more about time translation, in the description below, I posted the link of a series of video about to understand how the cycles works. In this case we can expect the 40 weeks low will form on his cycle line or very close to it. At that time the cycle line will be around between 38,000 and 37,000. After making his low, we can expect the Dow Jones Industrial Average resume his rally to probably to a new all-time high, to form the next 40 weeks cycle peak and the next 18 months cycle peak. If this 40 weeks cycle low is on time end of June, we can expect the next 40 weeks and by the principle of synchronicity, the 18-month cycle will form and maybe a higher degree cycle. This 40 weeks and 18-month cycle should form around in January to February 2025. The success rate is 66% and the cycle is in downside. Let's see the 20-week cycle. Since the Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed below his cycle line on the week of April 15th, we can consider it the best option to place the previous 20-week cycle is on the March 11th, actually March 25th will be more precise. See my previous weekly update for more details of the different options. It's happened sometime we have a doubt about where FO place a long-term cycle. There is no perfect techniques. But, to me the Hurst cycles theory is still the best approach to trade the market. Even if sometime on the long term we have some uncertainty, we can still trading the short-term cycles with a very high degree of accuracy. The Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed below his 20-week cycle line at 38,215 for a potential target at 36,540, 1674 points or 4.58% of potential profit. The success rate for the 20-week cycle is 80%. The 20-week cycle trend is in up phase for this week. By the principle of synchronicity, this 20-week cycle scheduled for the end of June to mid-July will be also the 40-week cycle low. Let's go to the 80-day cycle. From January 18th low to the March 11th, the 80-day cycle is 53 days. But by placing the last 80 days cycle low on March 25th, the second 80 days cycle will be 67 days, the average length for the 80 days cycle is 68 days. So I believe the best place for the low will be the March 25th, which will also fit perfectly with the lower time frame cycles. The next 80 days low is expected on May 31st or June 1st, about 2 weeks later than expected in my last weekly update, the yellow zone on the chart. Why this market declined sharply? Watch where the 80 days cycle peak occurred, the red solid line. The peak occurred very early, on the left side of the cycle, on March 28th with an high at 39,868. In the Hurst principle this is bearish. The Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P 500 was so bullish, the trend was so extend, then now we have to correct before resuming his uptrend. The 38,000 target have been filled. The cycle trend is in down phase. The success rate is 100%. Let's start with the 40-day cycle. If the March 25th low was the 40-day cycle low, then the next one is expected on April 28th. Thursday, a sharp decline bring the Dow Jones Industrial Average close to the April 17th low. The low for this cycle is due by now. The next 40-day cycle low is expected on May 31st or June 1st. Again, the decline was sharp, because the 40-day cycle peak occur early in the cycle, the red solid line on the chart. What's next for this cycle? If the low is on time, on April 28th, then the market should rally and form a peak around May 15th. Then resume his decline to form his second 40-day cycle and at the same time the 80-day cycle. On April 9th, the Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed below his cycle line. The crossing occurred at 38,871, giving a potential target at 38,460. Or 410 points or 1.06%. With a low at 38,304 on April 10th, the Dow Jones Industrial Average met his target. The success rate is 87%. The cycle trend is up for now. The 20-day cycle. If the April 12th was the last 20-day cycle low, the next one is expected to form on April 28th. Then the next one on May 15th. The last trading signal was on April 2nd. When the Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed below his cycle line at 39,365 for a potential downside target at 38,526. Or a potential profit of 681 points or 1.74%. On April 10th, the Dow Jones Industrial Average formed a low at 38,304, meeting his target. The success rate is 91%. What's next? Let's see on the roadmap. Where are we? We are actually here at 40-day cycle forming his low. We can expect now the market cross above his 20-day cycle line, providing an upside target for the 80-day cycle peak around May 17th or before. Then we will expect a new decline, crossing below his cycle line, providing a downside target for the 80-day cycle low around May 31st or June 1st. The 10-day cycle. On my last update, I mentioned. As expected during my last week update, the market rallied toward his cycle line, found resistance. Then on Tuesday the market continued his decline. On his way to form the next 10-day cycle, expected on April 11th. On April 12th, the 10-day cycle form a low, 1 day later. Then I also mentioned, the next one is scheduled for April 19th. On April 17th, the Dow Jones Industrial Average formed his 10-day cycle, 2 days earlier. The next low was expected on April 25th, the next one on May 3rd. The success rate is 100%. In conclusion, we was expecting the 40-week cycle peak soon. With high degree of confidence we can label the March 28th high as the 40 weeks peak. The actual correction is part of the 40-week cycle, and the market should keep correcting until end of June. For now there is no clear sign the bull market is over. If the Dow Jones Industrial Average cross below his 40-week cycle line, this will mean more weakness come into the market and we may start to looking for the bearish scenario. But for now nothing to worry about. Just as reminder, all my videos are for educational purpose only, the analysis are only my personal opinion and they are not in any case a trading advice. If there is a special market you are interested in, please do not hesitate to mention it in comment below. If you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe, to make sure you don't miss any future important videos. This is the end of this week's video. Thank you for following me. Next week, I will publish another market update.